Hey folks, Marty Nowicki coming to you from the Turning Stone Resort and Casino in Verona, New York. We're here in the Golf Dome. It's a little cool outside. Winter's coming up, and this is where we're going to train all winter long. Going to talk a little bit about chipping and how to control distances. There are a couple key variables that go into distance control, and a couple pressure points that will really help us to understand how to get a ball to spin, how to get a ball to stop, and how to go the same distance each time. So there are four key power accumulators in the golf swing. All right, number 4 would be the left arm, and this is coming to you from Homer Kelly's great book called The Golfing Machine. Number 4 would be the left arm. Number 1 would be the left wrist. Number 2 would be the right arm, the bend in the right arm, and number 3 would be the rotational force of the left arm. And if you think about chipping, we're not really looking for power, so we're not really looking for a lot of wrist cock and uncock, accumulator number 1, and we're not looking for a lot of rotation, because both these would go well with driving, where we are looking for power. Chipping, we're not looking for power, so more or less we're looking for the right arm to pull and push a left arm. Left arm is swinging from a hinge pin, your left shoulder, and we'd like to treat the left arm as if it were like a 2x4. It's just dangling, it's swinging back and forth. It's there to simply guide this club and help support it as it hits the ground. So your power source for chipping will be the movement of the right arm, like a piston action. It bends to pull and it pushes. So it is just pulling and pushing the 2x4, i.e. your left arm. All right. As far as grip and grip pressure, there are a few key pressure points that we're going to look for. The last 3 fingers, the leading hand, left hand in my case. The index finger just forms a hook and hooks on. The thumb just comes to rest. So the pressure is really the 3 fingers underneath the palm pad. Index finger hooks on, thumb resting on the club. The right palm is going to pressure into the side of the palm, and then the 2 middle fingers of the right hand are going to push in. Now, what's important to note, the wrists themselves are somewhat loose. The pressure points that I just talked about, they can be firmly secured to the golf club. 3 fingers, 2 fingers, and then the palm and left thumb connection. The wrists themselves are loose. So at home, when you take your grip, pressure just in those few spots, relax your wrist, you should be able to feel the weight of the club dangling down. All right? Pull, push, and what I like to have my students do is once they hit the ground is causing resistance to the club down here. It's not causing resistance where the handle is. So when you hit the ground, there may be a momentary increase in some of these angles, or your wrists may continue to go forward. At the completion of your stroke, I want you to relax the wrists, let them dangle. What's important to note here, when we look at distance control, you'll notice that the backswing is always the same length of the follow-through, or the backswing is always longer than the length of the follow-through. And the physics of that would really work well for chipping, pitching, putting, full swing as well. At the bottom of the stroke, the club is not accelerating. It's already at top speed. All right? If I put an object in the way, I can draw this back, let go. I know it's going to be at top speed at the very bottom. It need not need a follow-through beyond impact. So once we hit the ball, once we hit the ground, follow-through really is not required. With a bigger swing, because we're moving at faster speeds, our wrist can't stop the club and hold back. So there does come a time when the wrists completely go all out, where we have these big follow-throughs, what have you, only because of the speeds that we're working at. For chipping, pitching, putting, distance control type shots, we don't need a follow-through per se. Once we hit the ground, there's some resistance at the ground level. When we complete our stroke, I want you to be able to feel the weight of the club dangling. A couple key checkpoints, and this would be paramount to all good golf. The leading wrist at impact would be flat or slightly flexed. That's the wrist bone itself forward. The right palm, if you think of your left wrist being like this, dangling, and it's holding the club dangling, the right palm is there to support the left wrist. That way it won't physically just snap right back. The right palm is supporting the wrist, and it's also supporting the shaft as it hits the ground, as the club hits the ground. We've got to have some amount of support in the shaft. If your hands are in any other position, well, then there's not going to be any stress of the shaft, and the bottom of the swing starts occurring in different places. So be diligent when you take a practice swing. The leading arm should stay slightly ahead of this, and we call this our basic chip shot. There are variations of it to get the ball to do something different. But there are variations of this. Our basic chip shot, though, the leading arm stays ahead of the shaft. And right here, I should feel all the weight in my right palm. I feel the weight of my left arm. And the weight of the club, I'll feel right on the meaty section of my right index finger. So the club, the weight of the club is just dangling there. If my wrists were in any other position than this, it really wouldn't work that well. There wouldn't be support for the shaft and support for the ground when the club hits the ground. Note, a couple laws that govern a pendulum. The club is at top speed at the very bottom. If I were to draw this back 20 inches and let go, yes, the club would go 20 inches beyond the bottom of its arc. However, in the case of golf, because we're striking a couple objects, we're striking the ball and the ground, that's going to slow this down. So the follow-through for our basic chip shot is going to be considerably less than the length of our backswing. When you're practicing this, you don't even need balls. You use a little cutout of cardboard, put it on your carpet, and see how cleanly you can catch that. When at the completion of your stroke, let the club dangle so you can start feeling where proper pressures go. We'd never want to see a short backswing and a long follow-through, because that would indicate, hey, we don't know where top speed is, and we never really want to be accelerating when we hit the ball. All right, the club is already at top speed. So hit, hold, relax the wrist, feel the weight. Again, these wrists are in a position so that you can support the club impacting the ball. Let the club dangle so you can get an idea of where the weight should be. The fingers can squeeze, the palm can push into the thumb, but the wrists themselves have to be relaxed. I hope this helps your chipping and pitching, and I look forward to seeing you out here at the Turning Stone Resort. Again, I'm Marty Nowicki, PGA teaching professional here at Turning Stone. Thanks for visiting.